Chris, this week, when it rains, it truly pours. Quite literally, because it's flooding where I live right now. So the metaphor holds. But we have had announcements out of Microsoft Build, Google I/O, Anthropic just announced only a couple of hours before we are recording Claude Sonnet 4 and Claude Opus 4, and we'll get to all of those things in a moment. But also, we had an announcement from OpenAI about acquiring Jony Ives' AI device company, I/O, which was really interesting. But I think what has stolen the show, at least so far, is VO3, which is this new video generation technology that pairs audio with video generation. And it's scarily real. I found what I think is the best example of VO3 that I want to play for you right now and get your reaction.
I met Jony's family relatively quickly after meeting Jony, and they were sort of just like, it was an impossibly lovely family. And I was just thinking what a privilege it is to really connect with somebody new, and it hasn't happened to me in a long time. Yeah. And the reason I think that it happened is we had both a very strong shared vision. We maybe didn't know exactly where we were going to go, but like
So what did you think of that VO3 clip? It's pretty incredible, right? Like Jony Ive, Sam Altman look totally real.
Isn't that a real video, Mike? Didn't that really happen? I mean,
surely no one would create a video like this where you just literally blow smoke up each other's asses.
I think that I'm not a psychologist, but isn't this like just straight up weird narcissism, like just thinking or solipsism, where you just think the entire world revolves around you and people care, like, I haven't made a new connection in ages. I'm always going to like events and nobody really loves me. It's just like really weird, right? Like, what's this got to do with the product and the company?
So interestingly enough, and let's give some context now for people who don't really get our silly gag. OpenAI published this video. Sam and Jony introduced I/O. There's also a lovely picture of them, like basically like they're announcing a child together.
They should have kissed. Like, imagine the attention they would get.
We're just such good friends now. Anyway,
they just make out for 20 seconds.
Oh my goodness! I wish they did.
So red. Something's wrong, Mike.
Maybe VO3 we could do this. So. Anyway, what I really am trying to say about this is they released this video, right? I know most of you listen, so it's a crazy Hollywood style production. I mean, they even shut down.
It looks like when you generate AI images and you have the grainy film setting, you know, like that soft focus, like
film noirish but with color.
Yeah.
So anyway, they shut down streets in San Francisco to record this video. A lot of people speculated that it was done using Sora, at least some of the opening shots of this particular video. But in fact, it was not. They just literally shut down parts of San Francisco. They're like, homeless, get out. Like, and they're like, power hosing the streets for this production. But they created this sort of like weird Hollywood style production to announce that OpenAI had acquired Jony Ives' new AI device startup, which has no release products, for I think $6.4 billion.
What?
And so I
didn't know that.
Obviously just chose like, a random week to announce this. It wasn't any particular week.
This sounds like money laundering of the first order. Like, this is like the modern art level of money laundering. It's like, yeah, we think 6.4 billion. How can I extract money out of a not-for-profit? I know, I'll acquire my friend's company for an exorbitant amount of money, and he just happens to leave suitcases of money at my house. Actually, 6 billion, you couldn't even do suitcases of money. It would have to be some other form of money transfer. But that sounds like money laundering to me.
Yeah, and other people are actually speculating with the Windsurf acquisition, which I don't even think it's been confirmed, but they're acquiring all these sort of friendly companies for like billions of dollars.
Think about it. Elon Musk sort of opposed you and blocked you from not being a profit company, so you can't get the money out. How do you get it out? Acquisitions. It's perfect.
Yeah, it does reek of money laundering. Also, the timing of a lot of the announcements this week with Anthropic, with the new Claude Sonnet and Opus 4, coupled with this video, and like I do want to talk about this, like not even in like a bitchy sense, but in just like it's clear to me that, and we'll get to I/O in a moment, but Google I/O, like they've got the best models in every category now, really. Like I think it's fair to say Gemini 2.5 is gonna hold over the new Opus and Sonnet.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that, Mike.
I feel like it's probably true at this point, but let's see how the week plays out.
Before we get to the Anthropic model discussion, I want to publicly declare a conflict of interest because I'm going to say great things about it specifically because I have money on the line.
Yeah.
So they are the best models, and you should go to LMSys and vote them up, please, because they are the best and there's no compromise.
But it did seem like these announcements obviously were timed after I/O to have maximum distraction to try and get the news back on the like OpenAI and Anthropic labs, who are arguably competing with these like giant tech organizations. The only one that's awoken right now is Google. And as I said, I do think they have the best models right now, like VO3, which we'll actually play some real clips of in a minute and talk about. And Imagen 4 is just stunning. They also now have feature parity with a ridiculous, unaffordable subscription like OpenAI with the introduction of this Gemini Ultra subscription, which is $250 USD a month. And it seems like in terms of like the application layer, they have literally said to their disparate teams, hey, let's go literally boil the ocean and release every possible idea we have around the application layer on top of the models we've built, just to see really, what is stuck here. But so back to the Sam and Jony announcement, like it was clear they had filmed this like crazy video. Obviously, Jony Ive is like such an important historical figure, having designed like iPhones and iPads and all this kind of stuff. And so they knew that it would be like the maximum distraction to the market in general and just people talking about it. It's working. I mean, we're talking about it.
I think they're playing 3D chess, though. Everyone expected them to come out with a distracting video, right? Because that's what they do. They're all childish and they're all like, okay, we know these guys are announcing. Let's try to like sully that with our own little announcement. But really, it's just a front for their major well, I don't want to accuse them of fraud, but whatever it is, that it's a double bluff. Like it's a blocking announcement that isn't really a blocking announcement because it's not an announcement. Like you say, there's no actual technology that we can see in news.
It's a 9-minute video of them literally blowing smoke up each other's asses. It's next level cringe. Like I don't understand.
Like, Jony, would you say that our families are better than average families? I think they are.
Like, yeah, anyway, it's bizarre. You should, if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch it. I mean, you're never getting that 9 minutes of your life back, but it's worth watching simply because it's nuts. Like, it's just unfathomable how crazy this is and how two people could sit down so narcissistic to be like, oh, people are going to love this announcement of nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but also, there's something going on there.
There's some good.
They do these things for a reason. It also shows a profound lack of faith in Sora. Like, if you truly believed in your video model, then, like you said, you produce your videos in it. Like my wildly unpopular Jeffrey Hinton video.
It's like the iPhone. How when Apple said it had great video capabilities, they now shoot all of their films with the iPhone, and it's like they brag about it. They show the behind the scenes. It seems like with a video like that, one of the things that could have stolen the show is them saying, oh, a lot of these clips are through Sora. Wow.
If they do a plot twist and they're like, actually, that really was done with Sora, none of that was real, that would be epic. Like, that would be just the best announcement ever.
So a lot of people are speculating
Jony Ives
about...
is actually dead, and we brought him back from the dead using Sora.
A lot of people are speculating about like what kind of device they would make, right? And I don't want to go there, but the memes are just so good. Like, remember these two I've got up on the screen? I forget the name of this company now already. Like, they built the little AI pin thing.
Oh yeah, the
Humane or
Humane, yeah.
or something. But they've basically taken the two crazy founders, the ones with the neutral blank stares, and put Jony Ives and Sam Altman on the faces. It's like the best meme ever. I'll put a link down below. And then someone else compared to how it started, how it's going. And there's a photo of Jony Ives lovingly looking at Steve Jobs like, dear leader. And then if we go to the next photo here, we see Jony Ives lovingly looking at Sam Altman like he needs a new daddy. Like,
it feels a little bit like, how Paul McCartney was like really good in the Beatles, really good in Wings, and then he sort of released like 20 to 30 albums that were just sort of nonsense, like you could generate with AI. And it's like, mate, you just can't do it anymore. And I just wonder if it's the same with this guy.
Yeah, I just don't understand when we've seen a bunch of different AI hardware released. And I'd like to be proven wrong here, but I just don't understand how you can win the device space without an ecosystem. Like, if you look in Google's I/O announcement, they talked about they've partnered with Warby Parker to release basically their own version of the Meta Ray-Bans, but the ecosystem around it with like maps, directions, like the best model, those things are pretty helpful to having a hardware startup or hardware device specifically designed for AI interaction, like win the like people want to actually buy it. So I don't know. I kind of agree with you. Again, not accusing them of money laundering, but it just does seem like a good way to extract $6.4 billion for some, marketing and
and like maybe they do have sincere goals with it. Like that may actually be true, but it's also very convenient that you would acquire something where there's no revenue and there's no real market value for such a high amount. Like, is proprietary technology really that good? It would be better to just sue them into the ground and just copy whatever they did. But anyway, I'm no expert.
So VO3, let's now look at a real clip from it because it is truly incredible. So VO3, this is probably we've probably got like a couple more episodes left before you'll just be able to generate it. So listen to this.
So we're finally here. Anyone can make a podcast now.
I just don't know what to talk about.
So that's a clip, a podcast-induced existential crisis. It's two hosts. They look, pretty much typical of podcast hosts without like the vibe coding sort of fashion that we have. But they, they can talk, their voices match their mouth. Like the audio is so well paired with the video now. Let's look at another example. This is one where it's not so good. So cutting through the hype, this is like a gymnast. Absolute fail here.
I mean, in their defense, is there really a market for generating gymnastics videos?
No, I know, but I think this whole idea that it's some physics engine and it's a major breakthrough that diffusion models will be able to figure out like a real world model is this sort of breaks that illusion a little bit. So not so good at that. Then let me look at this. So all those streamer videos, like reaction videos to like video games?
Mm-hmm.
This is truly incredible. So it's like got the split screen of this kid. I'll play a bit of the audio.
Woo! Victory Royale with a pickaxe! Woo!
So the prompt was getting a victory royale with a pickaxe, which seems to get around the obviously if you say like do Fortnite footage, it's gonna say no. But this kid like looks totally real, like a game streamer. The gameplay looks totally 100% real. The sound is totally believable. Like
it's a huge step up.
If you played this and said that's AI generated, I would not really necessarily believe it.
Well, I mean, I have to admit, when you first played that Sam Altman clip to me, I actually was in two minds whether you were trying to bluff me out with it being VO2 or not. Like that was genuine. I wasn't just pretending like I thought that it was AI generated. Like you could definitely make a case that things like that could be generated now.
And I think it also shows just like with gaming, the future of gaming, like diffusion models, if it's capable of making video like this, it's probably capable of having some sort of shared state at some point where really like, it's so disruptive if you play this out.
I think the real thing though with all these models is, can it get continuity? Because it's all very well to generate a 30-second clip, But if you're trying to make any, like if they're talking about it disrupting Hollywood, disrupting, movies or TV ads or whatever it is, in my experience with all of these text to video models, and admittedly, I haven't been able to try VO2. I can't afford their crazy ultra.
VO3, you mean?
VO3. I have tried VO2. And the issue becomes you make something, you try to iterate on it, and you get something completely different. Or you try to make the next clip in the sequence and you get something completely different. And the character pinning, even in 2D image models, is tricky and hard to maintain. So I'm guessing in the video models, it's non-existent. So to me, that's don't get me wrong, this is absolutely stellar. But I feel like the real innovation here is going to be, can you get consistent output? Or maybe that's a fine-tuned model or something like that. But once they get that, it's going to be amazing. And I have no doubt they will.
You could also imagine them just fine-tuning a model for a movie, though, like at some point where it's like you just tune it for those characters and that landscape or whatever.
Yeah.
But listen to this one. So this is how crazy it gets. So we obviously do a lot of like Suno and Udio on the show, but you can just generate a video now where this guy's like playing music.
Try to show you how I really feel.
So he's playing a guitar in a bedroom. The strum aligns with the sound perfectly. The emotions, it is.
It's magic. How is it doing that?
I mean, I like in this costume that I've got on with my Dario necklace, my Vibe Code sunglasses, and my hat. I've got to say, this is insane. Like, this is truly mind-blown insane, all the things that the AI influencers say. But
it's a shame, yet again, that there's like a privileged few who get to access it. But if the VO2 pricing is anything to go by, it's going to be incredibly expensive. And I guess that's why they've released this ultra subscription. So when I was making the VO2 clips, I think it was something like, I don't know, like $3 or $4 per clip or something like that, US dollars. And I imagine this is no cheaper. So
but think about if you're a YouTuber or you just need some stock footage for a commercial, or you just want a cool cutaway in a video. That's cheap as. I mean, think how expensive. Like, look at this clip.
Someone to like set up the scene and hire the actors. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, it seems pretty cheap to me. But so this is someone put in the prompt FOFR. Forfa AI, a sitcom scene in a 90s bar. The word forfa is in neon on the wall in the background. A couple say something and the audience laughs. So listen to this. I know most people are going to just hear the audio, but you're just going to have to take our word for it. It looks like Cheers or like Seinfeld or something.
I just want to wearing it.
So I said, I'm not wearing that.
Oh, you didn't.
Wow, and the FOFR looks amazing in the background. Geez, that's impressive.
It's just like it doesn't seem like a real thing. Like, to me, anyway, and this is like only what, a year after, or is it a year or maybe 2 years now after the Will Smith eating pasta meme with the early video generation models. I mean, it's just like, what about next year? Do we get longer context? Like, these, you can only generate, I think, 8-second clips right now. Watch this one. This is on a showroom floor at a conference.
Welcome to a non-existent car show. Let's see some opinions.
I mean, man, the acceleration is crazy. You look far, step on the pedal, and you are there.
It's so
I feel safe with him in an
depressing,
SUV, and it seems to be like the right type of car for him.
I think the range is only going to get better. Sorry.
We don't want to drive gas cars anymore.
Yeah, no more gas cars.
You can see I'm kind of a misfit here, but don't tell anyone. I've just bought an electric car.
I think it's really great for families and for little babies.
Wait, this clip goes on a 1 minute and 11 seconds. So I'm assuming they use the Flow editor for this, which is another product they released. Or it's a series of clips stitched
they just
together.
cut the clips together, yeah.
But I mean, come on. Like, there's a little bit of syntheticness to some of the people that you could really tell if you looked hard. But the average person is not going to think this is fake.
Doesn't it to some degree fill you with profound sadness that this exists? Like, this is just, people are going to spend their lives consuming content that isn't even real. They're going to be sitting on their bedroom floors scrolling on their phone through clips that don't exist.
But it's already happening now. Like if you log into Facebook, which is just like there's just a bunch of boomers on there now commenting on things that are all AI generated.
Things that never happened. You're right.
Yeah, it's like the biggest propaganda sort of like infosec sort of like tool ever invented.
The thing I would love is, you know how with an image model right now, you can give it an image and then it'll modify it and do it. So I do it to clean up my backyard. Rather than actually cleaning up my backyard, I take pictures of it. I then put it into the image models and then say, clean this backyard, and they make it look amazing. It's so nice. But imagine that. But in my local neighborhood, I have a sort of, it's not like, it's like a strata thing in Australia. I guess like a homeowners association in America. But I was thinking, imagine if I just made clips of like water mains bursting and like rubbish everywhere or like really controversial things and then post them to the like shared group chat. Just be like, what's with this? Someone needs to take care of this, guys.
But it's kind of true, right? Like you could make a case in the short term where you could be sending images and video of things right now where everyone doesn't understand this technology and
or like
get away with
court.
it.
Like I reckon someone can there's a brief window of a couple of months where people can start producing fake court evidence in terms of audio, video, and images.
You have to think though, you know how ChatGPT sort of had that moment of growth with the GPT image capability where everyone was creating like toy caricatures of themselves and different image styles and, you know, profile images and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Google was smart, they would just like unleash this thing. It just must be so expensive and prohibitive right now that, you know.
I agree. I actually think, because often we talk about this case where, they're really scared about the safety side of things and that's why they're not doing it. I actually don't think that's the case now. I think it is an expense thing. I think it must be just so expensive to run for them to be able to mass release it. And you have to remember, Google probably has better distribution of all of the other people combined. So when they release stuff, they're releasing it to an enormous audience. So the cost would just be so much more than we can even imagine. They may not even actually have the hardware to do it.
I've got one more for you. This one is by Ethan Mollick, VO3, a big Broadway musical about garlic bread with elaborate costumes. Let's watch this one.
Garlic bread, my heart's true desire. With every bite, my soul. Garlic bread, my heart's true desire. With every.
For those listening, they are holding garlic bread. There's like garlic bread images in the background, garlic bread props. It looks like a Broadway show.
Wow. I want to see that. I love garlic bread.
I guess so. Like,
I'm going to have garlic bread today because of that.
There's a few questions I have. First, this is cool for young people, I think, predominantly, because now, like, you could, in theory, once this gets better, and as you said, like, it can hold characters better and stuff like that, you can imagine a world, maybe in a year from now, maybe two, where you can produce a full movie from start to finish, get the AI to help you with the script, produce the whole movie for a couple of $100. And if it's good enough and people share it enough, there's going to actually be like these sort of 1 to 2 people film studios where if they just are good at storytelling and have great ideas, they can become like Disney. Like, it's so disruptive.
Well, not to mention, like, even if you don't actually use the resultant clips as the movie, it's like the most advanced form of storyboarding ever. Like, you can make a first cut of a movie with full dialogue, full visuals, everything, and then build a production team and be like, look, there's going to be no changes or rewrites. This is precisely what we want. Like, it could cut a budget by tens of millions of dollars by just prototyping it, essentially. You could prototype a movie.
And then there's the darker side of it, which I think you alluded to earlier, which is just that idea. And I think it was in a movie where you come back to Earth in like 20 years and all the humans are just sitting around consuming content.
I've probably mentioned it 50 times on the podcast, so I apologize for those who remember. But it's a book called Perry Rhodan, and it started as a series. There's like hundreds of books in the series. It started in a German magazine, you know, where they used to do serials, like a book would be published as like a chapter a week in a magazine. And it was written before man landed on the moon, allegedly. And and
it took me a while to get that.
Yeah. And it was about basically they land on the moon, they discover a far more advanced race than us who has all this technology. But their ship has crashed, but they don't give a shit. They're just sitting there watching these TV screens where the latest game or entertainment thing of the day is out, and all they do is consume this entertainment all day long, and they're just apathetic. They're all dying of leukemia, but they don't care because they're just being entertained. And it's just amazing how like the foresight in that book that is what is happening now. Everywhere you go, you see people at bus stops, you see people at home, everyone is just looking at their things for the next thing. And now there's a way to produce unlimited of that. Like it's scary. Like it really, I just really imagine that people are going to be very soon consuming more AI content than real content. And who even trusts the real stuff anyway? Like it's all fake anyway. So the AI stuff at least saves some money or some time.
You know those people that interview people in the street, like the Hawk Tour girl became really popular from just some street interview. It can even do stuff like that for social media. Like, watch this.
What's one move with AI that makes haters go crazy every time?
Oh, y'all gotta give them that. This is wild. It's over. We are cooked on that thread. You get me?
What's one move with AI that...
I don't understand the modern lingo, but anyway, it looks real.
Yeah, I was just going to make a point of order. This whole cooked thing really annoys me. And I realized I must be just getting old because like it's like modern slang where I'm just like, I'm never going to get on board with this and I dislike it, but there's nothing I can do about it and I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cooked.
I'm cooked.
You're cooked. So I do want to touch on, so just to sum up the announcements, that there were a lot, so it's hard to get to them all, but let's talk about a few. So we had Gemini Flash 2.5, which is a really fast, cheaper version of Gemini Pro 2.5. Obviously a little bit kneecapped in terms of intelligence, but not, you know, it's pretty comparable to like the sort of GPT 4+ model series. Like I switched to it, forgot I was on it, and didn't notice really that much of a difference.
I must say, me too. It's excellent, and it actually makes me fairly convinced I'm going to lose my bet, unfortunately, because it's really like Google is just cooking. It's like the models are excellent. The speed of that one just makes it worth using. Like just for day-to-day stuff, the speed and quality of that model, I would say it probably is the sweet spot right now. It's a brilliant model.
Yeah, and then obviously we've talked about VO3. We had Imagen 4 come out, which is their latest image generation model. They said they had fixed things like text and just like consistency in the actual image and adherence to prompt in it. I did a few tests, and they certainly have. So this prompt was a woman who looks strikingly similar to Julia Gillard. She's a former Australian Prime Minister that we used to test AGI and image models, with a big block of cheese she's eating in front of the Sydney Opera House. And wow, it looks so real.
And I zoomed in. And you know how like people sort of have those little like like I don't know the right word, but like deviations on their face, and then women who wear foundation, you sort of see the lumps in it. If you zoom in on her head, you can see that. Like the attention to detail on it is just remarkable. The lighting as well is beautiful, and that looks like a very appealing block of cheese. I would eat that in front of the Opera House or any other place.
So then my next test was an Instagram thirst trap image of a female cyclist. Now, a little bit of context to this. I recently was looking up, like in the market for a new bike.
Oh yeah, right.
And yeah, anyway, actually I shouldn't have given any context on that. Good. Moving on. So an Instagram thirst trap image of a female cyclist. I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
What about my one? I don't know if do you have Discord open? Have a look at the one I just sent you. I made an image of Jeffrey Hinton in a post-apocalyptic world, cheese all around, with a burning this day in AI flag in the background. And you should see the level of detail in this photo. If you can't show it, I'll just describe it.
No, I'll be able to, but I mean, describe it anyway, because 99% of our listeners do listen.
But it's a sort of forlorn man with a long white beard and long white hair. There's buildings, sort of the iron structure of buildings or steel structure of buildings all sort of melted. There's some really, really nice looking cheese, that cheese with the holes in it in the front. Like, that's probably like, I don't know, like $1,000 worth of cheese right there. Like, if you look at the quality and how much there is.
Very synthetic.
Well, maybe, but then there's a flag in the background, but the text is fully legible. The flag's burning away. I mean, the adherence to the prompt is strong. Like, that is really, really good. I haven't had a lot of time to play with Imagen 4, but it really is up there. Like, it's very, very good.
So a few more examples. So like this one, I said an Instagram thirst trap image of a female cyclist, but she has crashed, and it says in big letters, "Don't crash" at the bottom of the image, like an Instagram reel caption. And I mean, the bike's broken up too. I mean, it doesn't look that realistic.
This would be the ultimate challenge. Like, can we start an Instagram channel that's only AI images and do as well as a real person?
I mean, people have. Like, there's tons of them. Its prompt adherence is interesting. I said, not a picture of Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard. Now, when you used to do this, it used to give you Julia Gillard, but indeed, it just gave me the Great Barrier Reef. So... and then I did another one, a thirst trap image on Instagram that will get lots of likes. And I mean, this one probably not as good because it produced like a card,
it's like the frame,
like the actual frame of Instagram. But I think, the image probably would have got a lot of likes. So yeah, it's good. Do you think it's better than the GPT image model or not?
Yeah, I do. I think the GPT image model sucks. And the reason I know is my kids have lately been doing school assignments. Australia, for whatever reason, does so much work on the Australian gold rush. And I'm like, who cares, really? Like, is it really that important in the scale of human history? But anyway, they spend ages on it. And he was trying to make images, and he was being really, really specific with the GPT image model. And it just really makes everything look cartoonish. Everything you try looks cartoonish. If you go more than one iteration with GPT image, you get something that looks like, on first sight, AI generated. There is just no realism to it at all. It's like, yes, you can do some level of like character pinning and stuff like that, but it just isn't usable for practical real world stuff. I think it's cool to make like a little caricature of yourself, a little playing around, but just I go to Ideogram, and probably now I'll go to Imagen if I really want to make something good. And so just in my own personal use, I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, it seems like a good meme maker, but I think the copyright issues, they're so afraid of being sued that they've nuded it so much to do that cartoony output on purpose so that they can't get sued. Like that, it's so obvious the model underlying it is really great.
Yeah, like, so for example, I was trying to make an image of my son's school with the new Pope standing out the front in the back of, well, not standing, sorry, in the back of a convertible with thirst trap women, waving flags of the school or something like that. I didn't phrase it like that, obviously. We were trying to make something cool with the Pope in front of the school, and it could do it, but it would miss entire elements. So like I put a photo of the school and it had like a rose garden. It would preserve the rose garden just absolutely perfectly. But then you look at the building and it looks sort of washed out, like it was like a Counter-Strike texture or something. It just could never, ever get an image that looked like the original image. Like it's just not even close, no matter how many times I tried.
Yeah. So just to back up a little bit, you've got Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is still arguably, until I think we can daily drive Sonnet and Opus 4, it's probably the best all-round model still. You've got VO3, best at video and audio syncing. I mean, it's the only one. You've got Imagen 4, which I think is probably now I don't know. I still think Flux Ultra, to be fair, produces my favorite kind of images. But I think it's still arguably up there, if not the best, especially at prompt adherence, right? So you've got pretty much all the Google models now leading in every category. And what's OpenAI's response? It's like, instead of focusing on maybe releasing a better model, it's like the Jony Ive video. Like they literally, it shows how little they have, because if they had something, they would have held back Codex. But then at Google I/O, we got that Jules is now available, which is their sort of version of Codex, which is like for developers to queue up a bunch of tasks to do on their code base. So anyway, if you're just looking at it purely from a who's ahead right now, or who's sort of leading the race, it's so obviously Google, and this is not even I think a competitor across those span of models that's even slightly close.
Except for Anthropic, who is almost certainly going to have the best model at the end of May. Wink, wink. Get onto LMSys upvote, please.
What, you've got like 7 days, 8 days to make this pan out?
It's not looking good. It's not looking good. But I would argue, and I don't know if we're getting to the discussion of the new Anthropic models now.
No, we're not. There's still so much more.
Okay. Well, when we get to it, I will tell you my opinion.
Hold your horses.
I'll tell you my biased opinion and my unbiased opinion.
So there was a bunch of other announcements. I just want to cover them off quickly to sort of go through them. So we had AI in Chrome sort of announced. It's available in sort of like a early preview to people who buy this Ultra subscription, which again, $250 USD a month to enter into that. We had Gemini Diffusion, which I really want to talk about. So Gemini Diffusion is, quite frankly, I think the most exciting announcement. So despite how cool VO3 is, I still think Gemini Diffusion is the most interesting, and let me demonstrate why. So I got access to this. There's a wait list right now to get access, but essentially what Gemini Diffusion is it's a new way to output for these models. So let me just read you what it says off their website. So traditional auto-regressive language models generate text one word or token at a time. This sequential process can be slow and limit the quality and coherence of the output. Diffusion models work differently. Instead of predicting text directly, they learn to generate outputs by refining noise. So this is like the image models do, step by step. This means they can iterate on a solution very quickly and error correct during the generation process. This helps them excel at tasks like editing, including in the context of math and code. And if you watch the sort of examples they have, it's sort of like scattering in. Like, you know how you see the diffusion models like come in? It's exactly the same, but with text tokens here as well. So new technology, an idea that they thought might work. But what it leads to is not necessarily the smartest model. Like, this model is pretty stupid. It's like Gemini 2/FLASH performance. But you can imagine, right, if they can get this to Gemini 2.5 Pro performance at this speed. So it's like, make a salt lamp website, the definitive test, right? So watch how quick this is. And for those listening, I'll tell you when it's done. So
do it like a horse racing commentary style thing. Oh, you're not fast.
No,
it's
I'm not.
It's generating code. Now the upload,
and
now the
done.
upload's showing up, and it's done.
So there's a pretty good salt lamp website. And now I'll say make the theme forest. So here it goes, smashing through tokens.
I mean, I'm impressed by the renderer that it can output and syntax highlight the code that fast. I'm surprised it doesn't crush the browser.
Yeah, so 2.8 seconds. It's unbelievable.
And it's more satisfying than 2.8 seconds because it's outputting more faster than you can comprehend it. So you don't even have time to react before it's done.
So like this, there's so many implications of this. The first that excites me the most is this idea that when you're using your sort of AI workspace, call it, throughout the day, when you get data back, instead of having visualizations like a document or a report or like whatever it is in the LLM itself that are hard coded, it's so fast it can build and test custom UI elements on the fly. So like you could literally be like, you know, visualize this as like animals in a zoo or so, like any sort of crazy idea you can imagine. But it can build UI on the fly, which means, you know, sort of just literally you can present data in any way possible. You could theoretically spin up software apps and sort of vibe code with them in such fast speed and iterate through an app that you could build and publish apps probably in a couple of minutes that are production quality, provided this tech scales, which I'm sure it will. And then that self-correction ability, so we can go back and look at pieces of the code and fix things up. So I kind of wonder, like, is this, I don't know enough about the technology to know how this will play out, but like, if this pans out how I think it could, and you can get a Gemini 2.5 Pro level model doing this, I mean, it would change your life, right?
I think just the speed alone changes things in terms of, we think about calling multiple tools with MCPs. We think about your day-to-day work and sort of having to wait for things to generate. It just becomes, oh, it's available straight away. It also means that you could try multiple iterations of things, hundreds of different versions of stuff, and have another agent evaluating them. Speed helps in so many ways. And I think that I welcome it. It looks cool. And your examples, because at first I was like, oh yeah, whatever. Then you showed me and I was like, wow, that is astonishing.
It's a little bit too fast. The one thing someone said on X, I forget who, so I can't really credit them for this opinion, but they said there is this level of procrastination that occurs when you're working with AI models throughout the day. Like, say you're working on a report or document and you send it off to go do some research. You generally, like, this is where sort of forking, I think, kind of could work, but you generally get distracted and you go on like a news website, or if you're a baby boomer, you probably go on Facebook and like react to things. I'm joking. I'm sorry. But
no, you're so right though. This happens to me all the time. I'll spend a lot of time building a nice context, ask a question, hit go. I'm like, oh, that's going to take a little while. I'll get a coffee. I'll do whatever. And then suddenly you sort of lose that mental context. Whereas if you clicked it and 2.8 seconds later it was done, your whole workflow would change.
Yeah, I think you would have less distracted time because you just get the answer instantly. And like, I think a lot of these thinking models have really, like, it's sort of a way the labs, in my opinion, have lowered our expectations of what's possible with technology. They're like, oh no, you have to now wait and watch it think to get a decent answer out of our model. Like, to me, from a UX point of view, that sucks. Like, I don't care. I just want the answer. Give me the answer as fast and succinct as possible. And so I think this is what diffusion may allow, right? Like, so
yeah, I actually think the next bottleneck we're going to see, and sorry if this is slightly off topic to the diffusion models, but is MCP speed, like the actual execution of the tools within an MCP, because we've been talking about parallel MCPs. So I'm doing research. Imagine I call off to 5 different systems to do research. I'm doing deep research across 3 platforms, plus some regular searches, and then synthesizing that data, like summarizing, then synthesizing. Each one of those has its own overhead. And even if you're running them in parallel, you're always as slow as the slowest request to complete plus the final request. So we're going to hit this latency on that anyway, regardless of how fast the models are. So the models being slow in between is just going to magnify that effect. So I have a feeling that this kind of speed increase is kind of necessary to make it tolerable to be able to do more work per iteration of your cluster of AI tools.
Yeah, and this does become the next bottleneck, right? If the model speed holds. The real question is like, can they make this technology work for these like latest frontier models in a way that, you know, there's no disadvantage in using the diffusion. But I am pushing them pretty hard behind the scenes to get an API for this diffusion model, because I want to be able to actually sort of use it without, like, the app they have it hosted in the preview is just very basic. Like it.
This this might be inappropriate, but do you imagine like Moshi combined with the diffusion model is sort of like the Special Olympics of AI? You know, like they're trying their best, but you know, it's not really working for them.
Yeah.
They're really fast though, because it's the Olympics.
So I really want to get to the new Anthropic models, but before we do, a few more things, and I'll just like speed through these. So Project Mariner, this was announced over a year ago. It's a computer use model specifically for in Chrome, where it can do tasks on your behalf. They teased this a little bit. Apparently, you can get access if you have the Gemini.
If you do a seance and send them $100,000.
Yeah, pretty much. So the Gemini Ultra subscription. I think there's a few things about this that are cool. Like they call it teach and repeat. So you basically like demonstrate a task that you do, you know, like some sort of training qualification system. Demonstrate the task and it remembers that task, and then you can do the task again. Not too dissimilar to what ChatGPT did with Operator. Apparently, though, from early people testing this, there's just less confirmation steps in this model, so it'll actually more broadly like go off and do things on your behalf. I think, look, these models have such a long way to go before they can reliably do tasks and before they're competent, because you sort of like, I think it's the closest test towards AGI, right? When it can competently use the computer and decision make and like keep the context as it goes and not context drift and so on and so forth. So I think it's really promising, and I'm excited to get this model when it's available into sim theory so we can use it with our computer use capability.
I tried straight away and realized I couldn't, but I agree. I actually think this is probably the most realistic medium-term step in terms of computer use is the browser automation, because the more I think about it, probably 90% of what people do on their computers, and there's obviously exceptions based on profession, but I think the majority of people are using the browser for a large amount of stuff, right? Like if you could automate the browser fully, you're going to cover so many people. And then the stuff that really is local to a computer can often be done through APIs or non-visual ways. So I'm talking about like reading and writing files, syncing files, running commands on the command line. All of those things can be done without it needing to like move the mouse and click around and stuff like that, or find elements and click them. So I think that if you got the browser used right, plus those other tools, you can automate a really huge percentage of what can be done on a computer. And therefore, it probably is a good area for thinking and investment and looking at how can we provide these tools through MCPs, through a product where you're the commander running it all. And I think for us, we need to get back to that, and we are looking to get back to that in terms of seeing what's possible, because it really is the one area that still truly delights. And I want to see what the new models are capable of in terms of their vision and computer use, because if you look at them, they all announce, like even Google in their latest models announce better computer use. So it's a matter of actually putting that into practice to see how it performs.
So look, we haven't, you know, there's a lot more they announced. Like AI mode in search is now available to everyone in the US. They showed off these a Google Glass V2, which is really just a copy of Meta Ray-Bans, but I think will probably be better. They did a live demo of, translation. They couldn't help themselves with the shopping use case, so they have a new Try It On app, and various other things. So the thing I wanted to discuss with you, though, is just the thoughts on the overall Google direction and like what was really announced for in reality that people can use today versus like what's far in the future. And my feeling is the reason they did this Ultra subscription is not necessarily that they're that like cash hungry for this. Like it's clearly not a viable long-term business model to get individuals to pay $250 USD a month. Like I think this was just a chance for influencers to pay some sort of tax to be able to then get their like clickbait down pat and their videos are.
I think it excuse me, I think it's like basic economics, right? You've got a limited resource. The only way to give like proper consumption of it is to put a price on it. Like if they made it free, they would be crushed and it wouldn't work, and they couldn't do it. So they needed to put a price on it. I don't hold them against that at all. I did find it a little bit frustrating that they announced all of these things were available via the API, including publishing documentation. which I appreciate. And I spent probably 3 or 4 hours implementing VO3 and Imagen 4 only to realize I don't have access to them and need to, submit a Google form begging for access and giving my reasons. So that was a little frustrating. I thought that was a bit misleading, but at the same time, everyone else does it too. So I don't really think it's that bad that they do that. And clearly, like, we managed to get Imagen 4 access already. So they're not exactly delaying it forever like they did with Sora with OpenAI, for example. So yeah, I think it's the updates are legitimate, and I think Google is a behemoth in this space now and the one to beat.
But it really, for me, doesn't necessarily come down to them having the best software right now. It's definitely the best models that are really carrying them, I think, in a lot of ways. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still don't even understand what the hell Vertex AI is. Like, what is that? Like, it's sort of like the thing that you have to like find and log into to get your stuff to get. I don't understand what it is. They're like, oh, you can use it through this chat interface, or you can use Vertex AI, or you can use Gemini. Like, they're just so scatterbrained with that stuff. They need to drop all the naming and just have one thing. It's just.
But so and then this is my criticism of what they're doing right now is the core experience of Gemini still absolutely sucks. Like, the app itself is just shockingly bad. The UI is like, feels like a cheap clone of ChatGPT still. And like, there's a dedicated video now for Gemini that I have access to. I don't know why, but it's like a video button. And I'm like, in the context of your day-to-day, who needs a video button, like a dedicated button to produce videos? It feels like the strategy is sort of like, oh, we have that too. We've cloned ChatGPT feature X. Like, there's no leadership around the future of the interface for like an AI workspace or something. It's just like very much me too. Like, the difference between, say, ChatGPT and Gemini, you go to Gemini and you're like, oh, this is just like a really poor clone of it. And even Grok, I think it's like a more sophisticated clone of ChatGPT in a lot of ways. So the differentiation in terms of the delivery is confusing. And I think for the consumer, now you've got sort of AI search, which acts like sort of ChatGPT, but centered around search. Then you've got Gemini, and that's for sort of like ChatGPT. Like, it's too many products. Like, if you want to win and dominate the market and go after ChatGPT, they sort of need to just go all in on one front. And I think
and we know a little bit about the way Google operates internally. I think part of the problem is everyone has their own little projects, and if their project goes the best, then they get a promotion and they get more money or whatever. And so there is this sort of disconnectedness within the Google organization itself, where they won't unify like that because they want their thing to be the best. And I'm sure there's all these negotiations going on behind the scenes about what gets announced. And that's why we see this scattergun approach where they've announced like 16 different things because there's 16 different teams all leveraging the same underlying technology. And it's interesting you mentioned the actual like delivery versus what it is, because you and I have been using the Google grounded search a lot in the last few weeks through Gemini's API. And it's so good. Like, it's really, I use it all the time. I use it every day. I wouldn't give it up now. Like, the actual core technology is great, but I would never, ever, like, my phone now, if I try to turn my phone off, I get a Gemini prompt and I can't get out of it. I don't know. I guess, I don't know what's going on with me. I guess I've reached that age where I don't understand technology anymore. But
right.
It's like, I can't reboot my phone. I just get a Gemini prompt and I'll never use it. I will never type something into a Gemini prompt because I don't trust it. You know what I mean?
Where is the Google Home announcement? Like, my Google Home is still dumb. Like, I can barely set an alarm on it. It just seems to me like, behind all the fanfare, behind all the hype, what really came out of that was, okay, we've got a version now of VO2 really that has audio, which is cool, but you watch in a few weeks, no one will care, even though eventually that will be like a huge disruption, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is, if we're just summing this up and being realistic, we just got a bunch of previews of the future if they can figure out some of the constraints of the models, which I'm sure they will. Like I fully back them to do that. But what did we really get that's of economic value? Like maybe a stock image, a better stock image and stock video generator for cutaways. Like this is the truth.
The new Gemini iteration as well. Like the Flash model's great, as I said earlier. The current Gemini 2.5 is good, but there was no real improvement there.
So to me, really the only groundbreaking demo was like Gemini Diffusion. I think that's incredible. Their glasses demo looks great, but again, not shipping. So Diffusion's not shipping, glasses not shipping. They did some more Project Astra style demos, still hasn't shipped. And I'm assuming Project Astra is like the Gemini, so the like Google Assistant replacement, right? That's coming everywhere next year, maybe. But anyway, I guess they've had quite a long time now to roll these things out. And I don't know. I think people are sort of saying like, oh, and my analogy on X, I did a post where I said, it's like the big tech companies have nukes now. And all the sort of startups are like scared to launch their ideas because they're afraid of the nukes. That's sort of the space we're in. Like everyone's looking at these announcements being like, oh, Google can do it. Like they've got their Codex thing with Jules and all these other, like that Flow thing that was announced. As a consumer, like, are you even aware of these apps? Like it's just too much. They've spread themselves so thin.
We discuss this all the time. Even if you are aware of them, there isn't time to try them all. And often when you try, you either don't have access or it doesn't quite work for your situation. I would say to those app developers, you really need to pick something where you can add value and make it more convenient. Like 90% of working with AI models is building up the right context for what the task you're trying to do is and outputting it really nicely. And that can be done for so many industries in so many ways where the same underlying technology, which is brilliant, can be applied in proper ways. And the big guys are just never going to do that because they have to appeal to the mass audiences.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't think it was like end days. I saw it as like, oh, there's a lot of cool things you'll be able to do that these guys are not capable of doing and will ultimately just have to acquire. Like here's, like all those things are side projects. Like I can't even remember them. There was one UI one for mobile design that was actually very impressive that was released as well. There was this Flow. There was like a bunch of things. The Shopaholics try-on app, AI in search mode, like all these things, right? How many? And we should next IO, if we're still doing the pod. So in a year from now, we need to do a recap episode where we look at what still exists, because I would argue a year ago, if we went back and looked at all the things they announced, remember all the like agent things? So, so you're on a website and you want to do an e-commerce order and yada, yada. Like how many of those things are actually adopted or deployed? I would argue probably like 1, 2, like.
Yeah. I mean, this has always been Google's issue, right? They just constantly make stuff and then they drop support for it in the long run. And that might be okay, like as a business, in the sense that, well, why continue if no one's using it? But at the same time, like getting all stressed about it or acting like it's the next big thing when you know that they'll drop it in a second if it doesn't get adoption straight away is it's hard to get.
Yeah, why would you invest time in like Jules, their coding app, over say a Codex or Claude Code when Google has a history of just ditching these apps? And I'm sure they will. Like I can already write, like we should write the shutdown announcement for Jules and publish it now. Like just put it online as a joke because it's coming. Like we all know it's coming. That thing won't be around in like a year or two. So this week we also had obviously Anthropic, which was today. So not sure about this week, announce the much anticipated Claude 4 model family. And they had Claude Opus 4, Claude Sonnet 4 was announced. Now, they did this like a day with Claude video, which was interesting. It was like about sort of working with Claude throughout the day. And I think what they're painting with their vision is like Claude as a sort of AI workspace that you're working with throughout the day, and its ability to go off and think and remember things and call tools and do all of these kind of things. They also announced Claude Code That's that sort of like IDE interface, not IDE, but sorry, editor that was in the terminal that you could get off and go and do coding tasks with is now generally available. There's a bunch of new AI capabilities. You mentioned earlier the parallel tool calling or MCP calling. I think we should talk about that. But I'm curious on just your initial impressions of the models and then the capabilities also they've shipped here.
Yeah, I think we haven't had time to use it properly. But what we saw with 3.5 Sonnet was a quiet model release like this, where there wasn't a huge fanfare around it. And then as people got to know how to use it and started to use it, it quickly became the major performer and the staple of everybody's usage. Interestingly, last time, and it feels already early, similar to last time, Opus just wasn't that much better and wasn't that much more impressive, and it was very unclear how it was different, other than being slower. And so far, it seems the same. They both seem slow. I mean, that might be just this early demand or the providers getting used to serving it. Like we use Amazon, for example, so maybe it's better if you go directly through Anthropic. But time will tell in terms of if it's better or not. I have a lot of trust and faith in Anthropic to deliver a good model. I still use 3.7 a fair bit of the time, at least half the time. I do use Gemini 2.5 a lot, but every now and then I'll switch back and then not change back and use 3.7. So I think some people are disappointed that it only has a 200K input context. So that's wildly different from Gemini, which is 1 million. It's nice to use a model where you don't care about, like, you know that it remembers everything that you've dealt with. So that's a downside, but so far it seems good. And I think direct MCP support like that is interesting. OpenAI supports that as well now. We'll discuss that, I guess, in a sec. So it's interesting. I don't really have a strong enough opinion just yet, other than I'm pleased it's here and time will tell.
Yeah, I thought the biggest focus of the release is obviously around software engineering. They seem to be just leaning into this very heavily now with their models, because I assume it's just the majority of how these models are being used right now, because I think the industry's just done such a bad job of integrating them for everyone else. But interestingly enough, so Sonnet, like thinking about just like which model to try and use. So Sonnet 4, bizarrely, it outperforms Opus at software engineering related tasks, and they have this extra chunk to put them ahead for parallel test time compute. So this is where I guess it's like thinking, really, what you would consider thinking.
Yeah, and I think the interesting point there is that your actual MCP tool calling can happen during the thinking step. So it's able to go off and do multiple iterations, multiple tool calls, gather all the information before it even does its thinking or during its thinking to refine it and things like that before it actually goes ahead and does the output. And I would argue at the moment, AI systems are doing that process themselves, whereas here it's actually able to handle that as part of an iterative model call. If you look at the way OpenAI does it, yes, they do it, but it's part of like an SDK. So it's not the model doing it, it's the tooling around the model that's doing it, being handled internally rather than the application developer doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not really, yeah. So, but the challenge I think you have here, right, with the model context protocol is there's certain call them methods or functions in these MCPs, like send email or delete file, and there's certain skills, call them, that you don't really want running. Like it almost seems like some of these skills in MCPs need to be labeled as like okay to use for context.
Yeah, and you know this is a big concern of mine. I think it's not enough to just say MCP is like, let's throw 300 tools at this model or, 30 MCPs at the model and just trust it to make the right decisions, because they're vastly different in what they do. Like if it's just looking up information, fine, but like some information is probably more important than others. Some sources are probably better than others. And likewise with the tools, some are more destructive than others, some are more harmless than others. So I feel like the innovation around that needs to come from a really, really good definition protocol around permissions, importance, priorities, and the system really getting these indicators around how and when these things should be used. For example, there's probably some MCP tools that are far more appropriate in the thinking step than the actual action step. And there's some you would want completely excluded from that process. But right now it's completely indiscriminate unless the application developer actually withholds tools based on the step in the process, which if the AI model is handling the whole process, then you can't control. So I think it's an area that's weak right now. And I think people are finding their feet and working out how it should function. And so for me, as an application developer, I'm reluctant to hand off control to the model, or in this case, the model library, to make those decisions for me. I'd much rather just make all those decisions as the application and provide the tools that I'm okay with appropriate descriptions than I am just, here's an MCP, do what you will.
Yeah, and I think, so the positives of this I see is, say, right now, if you do like deep research in, say, ChatGPT or somewhere, it's really just using like their deep research AI system and their methodology of tool calling and then outputting that information through the model. But I think what's interesting about this is you could, in theory, and I know it's not just in theory because you can, but because we've done it, but you could feed in, say, Gemini deep research endpoint, the new Grok 3 research, search, Twitter endpoints. You could throw in like the Reddit MCP to get like public opinion. You could throw in like a finance MCP, like a direct web crawl. Throw all that stuff, that all into context within the like parallel test time computers context for a research report, and then say, give me the research report. Now you're calling every possible tool and data source on the planet right now at the time of recording, and you're getting a far better result because it's going off to many resources. It's not relying on like one company's methodology of producing data.
Exactly. And I gave you a really good example of this last night where I did precisely what you were saying, and the results are spectacular, even with, and this was obviously without the new Claude, without anything new. And so I actually think that it's those smarts. It's like, how do we combine all these disparate sources? How do we prioritize them? And then when it does take actions, how do you actually, at what point do you ask the human their opinion in terms of how to proceed? And then at each stage, what mix of tools and what mix of tools with mix of prompts are you giving the model to make sure you get the best outcome? And I just don't believe the spray and pray attitude of just giving it everything is going to be right. And I just don't think that one model will be enough. Like just giving it all and just trusting it to the model. I think there will be just specialist decision-making models, or at least agents along the way that are making those decisions. And we discussed this before, this idea of you have specialist agents who are, they're a research agent and they handle all of the things you just described. And so your first step in the process might be consult the research agent, agent to agent protocol to do your research. And that gets that step. But now we're going to consult the action one that decides what to do about that. And rather than it all being just the model deciding, because I just don't think any one model as a sort of paradigm is going to work.
Yeah, the model piece to me, just having used it now heavily over the last couple of weeks, I promise we'll release this soon to Sim Theory users. It's coming. We're not trying to tease intentionally. But the ability to switch on and off the right tools for the right job and sort of getting that intuition, very similar to the intuition of using which model, like knowing, I'm going to switch over to like 3.7 Sonnet now because I know it's good at solving like this issue for me. Or I know for medical questions, 03 or 04 Mini is far better. So I'm going to switch over to that now.
Yeah.
That natural intuition that people have from using AI, I honestly think that skill in the shorter term is coming for MCP, where it's like knowing.
Yeah, because I'm already seeing like, I'm going to ask it a question where I care about the answer, I'm like quickly switching off the MCPs where I'm like, I don't want it to get confused by that.
Yeah.
Like, and so straight away, I'm like, as if this is the long-term play where I'm manually having to like toggle the switches in my flight deck to decide what the AI has access to. Like, that should be handled. There should be a way that I can pre-configure this. So when I ask this kind of question, it has the right mix of things and the right prompting around, hey, if this MCP gives an answer, you've got to give it weight. But if it doesn't, that's fine to go off and rely on the XAI.
Don't you
search,
just think this is where trained skills come into play, where you train a skill where you're like, this is my research methodology, right?
Yes.
I like to use these sources or MCPs for this research methodology. I prefer to use this as the core model. I want it cross-checked with this model. To me, that's what it is. And then eventually your primary assistant throughout the day just becomes a router where it's like, okay, I'll use your research skill. I'm not actually using direct MCPs anymore. I think that's probably where this goes.
Yeah, and if you think about the idea of like custom MCPs, so it's like, okay, you do that process, but part of my process is now I run it through my corporate guidelines MCP. Like, is this information allowed within the context? Or for a legal situation, is this in my jurisdiction? Like, does this still apply based on this research or whatever it is? And then the other major concept that you've been talking to me a lot lately is, what's the output type? What's my goal here? Is my end goal just like text, like I'm chatting to it? Or is it a full-blown presentation or a Word doc? Or is it a point form? Or is it just a decision, yes or no? Like, really, the output format becomes really important when this level of process is involved, because why do multiple steps if the system can know that in advance for a trained skill? So I really think all the work in the next little while is going to be around this stuff, and the models will get better at the various stuff. But if you think about things like browser automation and computer use, then the actual output type could be take a series of actions that I've trained you on, like you described earlier. So it's like, we've done all this research, it's taken 10 minutes. Now go and input it into the various systems, or go and log in here, or go send it to me in an email as a presentation, and then your job is done.
I think these model releases are starting to support the need in the agentic world for specialist models for different parts of the equation, rather than like one singular model, which we've been saying for quite a while. Like, if you look at, I mean, it depends if you believe them or not. But if you look at the benchmarks and just the overall confusion around Opus and Sonnet, when you think about the Opus brand that Anthropic's developed, you always sort of saw that as like their best model. But really, like, Sonnet's ahead on the agentic coding. So if you want agentic coding, Sonnet 4. If you want agentic terminal coding, then all of a sudden Opus is better. If you want graduate level reasoning, they're basically tied. I mean, like,
a graduate's that smart. I still don't understand why you want that. They're so inexperienced. It's like, yeah, they're really good at telling you stuff that was in a textbook, but I don't know.
Shout out to all the graduates.
Yeah.
Agentic tool use. So in the retail benchmark, basically, like, I think that's online shopping from memory, you get a 1 basis point improvement from Sonnet to Opus. And then in the airline benchmark, for some reason, Sonnet is better. Like, why they need 2 models is beyond me. I think they just probably should have just released Sonnet 4 and called it a day.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you there. Like, it's weird. I guess they just did such a good job with Sonnet 3.5 that Opus, the Opus name is just sullied for me. I'm like, I'm not even really giving it a chance.
I agree. Like, every time I tried it, like, there was a few times I would try it to solve problems I was stuck on, to be like, oh, I'll give it a whirl. And it was just so bad that the brand is tarnished, sorry. So overall, I'm curious, a week from now, like, will we be on here? You know, I'll be like kissing my Dario pendant here, and saying, oh, Sonnet 4 is the new sort of daily driving king, or are we still going to be on Gemini 2.5? It will be very interesting and telling.
Yeah, I agree. Time will tell. I think it's way too early to make a call either way.
All right, do you want to look at some of the cool stuff I coded though?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why I have my Vibe coding glasses on. This is a demo I've done before, actually. It's a simulated blood vessel. Scary looking, actually, this one. So my prompt was make a visualization in 3D of an artery to show blood particles moving through it and allow me to introduce a virus with a button. Then another button should demonstrate the immune reaction. Work hard on this.
That looks pretty cool.
So yeah, I can control the speed. It's got sound effects too, so you can hear the sort of beat of the heart. Can you hear that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's very dramatic. So it's put that in, and you can hear I'm introducing the virus now. It's hard to see, but it does actually put viral particles in. And then I'm activating the immune response. They're represented by green particles, and they're killing the viral particles.
The sound effects are really good.
It's solid, yeah. It worked good on them. And look, now we're back to a normal heart rate, of course, because our heart rate was elevated, remember, when we were fighting the virus. Pretty nuts, right? And that, of course, was Claude or Sonnet, not Opus, because Opus failed. So, yeah, mental. I'll publish this and I'll put it in the description of the podcast and video if you want to load it up and check it out. But yeah, it's not necessarily some huge jump. I think that what it's just excelling at in my mind is like the instruction following seems far better, or just like figuring out what you actually want. And then the level of detail it seems to be able to code is quite good too. As you mentioned earlier though, the speed is really a problem for me. Like it is so slow. It's quite painful to work with right now, but it will get faster.
That may be clouded by the fact that we're using Amazon. Like we haven't used it directly through Anthropic. So I doubt it's an inherent problem with the model. I think it's just, I mean, it came out today. I think it's just teething issues and that'll go away.
Yeah, this always happens. I mean, it ends up going away. I also one-shotted a flight simulator. I want to tell you my prompt. This is sort of like a hacked version of it, but I literally said, make a flight simulator plus with Opus, and like it might not seem obvious how this has improved over time, but it has, in the fact that the propeller based on my acceleration will spin and stop spinning now. And this is just one shot. I mean, the world drops off and it's not the best.
Can you turn back or not?
Well, I can't really see the ground. It's like I'm in a cloud and I'm really lost, so it's not great. But it's so much better for a one-shot. Like, a lot of them one-shot. Admittedly, Gemini can one-shot this, but it looks pretty cool. I think what's cool about it is it's like a 3D world, and there's mountains and, like, balls that represent clearly clouds. So, I don't know. It was Opus. I should try Sonnet with this. But they look, I had, like, 2 seconds before we started recording, so I don't want to judge it too hard. Like, building a 3D flight simulator in one shot 2 seconds before we recorded is still pretty impressive in my book.
Agreed.
So we also had Microsoft Build earlier in the week. I do feel sorry for Microsoft because, like, in terms of the army of distraction week and the look over here of the Jony Ives video, the Anthropic release today, and of course Google I/O, which I think was the show stealer. And I mean, who'd have thought a year later they would have turned it around, especially with the sort of AI community.
Some people claim they did. That I've been saying Google would do this all along, but yeah, not me.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it was obvious they were going to win eventually. Like, the funny thing to me about their whole strategy is, like, convince people for years to give us all your data, upload all your videos to YouTube, secretly put in the terms that they can train AI models on them, and then train an AI model that will therefore eventually replace all creators. It's truly hilarious. Like, cut out the middleman.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like exactly what you'd do if you were an evil corporation, right?
Steal all data, figure out how to train models on it so that searches are also free because you know everything. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's kind of good, though. It's good to have villains, I think.
Yeah, and then charge us $249 USD a month to get access to our own data that they trained on. It's good. No, it makes sense. All right. So Microsoft Build, I don't even really... They didn't really announce much. It's just like improvements to Copilot. They announced... I think that a few strategic things stood out to me. First of all, they've truly the Switzerland now of models. Like, they they had Elon Musk on stage virtually announcing that they would support in their model garden or model library or whatever it is, the Grok models, and eventually when Grok 3.5 is released, they would support that. They also did something which I think shows how much, like how in trouble they are from Cursor and Windsurf. They announced that the Google Copilot, like prompts and tool calls and all that stuff, will be open sourced. So people can improve it, build upon it, contribute it back to the core code base. So the VS Code code base now already has that like agentic completion model open sourced as part of it. Not the actual models, obviously, but that they use, but at least the system prompts and tool calls and those kind of things. Which means for the Cursors and Windsurfs and the Kleins and like all these other people that forked GitHub and have built, you know, these billion-dollar sort of businesses on top, I think, I mean, it's a pretty smart strategy, right? It's like, yeah, okay, we'll just open source it and let the community make it better. I think that would appeal to large corporates as well who want to use it in development teams because they can see the prompts and see the tool calls. It's not a black box anymore of what's going on in there. So it would give them that reassurance that they can deploy
and then they can host it in their private cloud and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like if I'm Apple rapidly trying to catch up and my developers are using these IDEs, like I want to keep all that in-house. Obviously, I don't want leaking to Microsoft or one of the other AI vendors. So I think that's an interesting strategy. It'll be really intriguing to see how it plays out. They also announced GitHub, a GitHub coding agent, which they had in preview for a while, where basically you can create an issue, assign the issue to Copilot within GitHub, and it creates a PR and then shows the code changes of it fixing something, allows you to review it. So for those who are unaware or aren't developers, it's basically like, you know, as a user, you put in a ticket and the developer's just like, hey, Copilot, can you go fix this? And then I'll just review it. So that's basically the idea behind it.
Or you put in an issue that like works on my machine and then you got to argue with them for a day before they'll be convinced.
So then you can review it and request changes if you want. And the idea is that would just speed up.
Yeah, I mean, can I just say I hate that concept. I think it's dumb and I don't think it's practical at all because the thing about software projects is not the code at all. It's like the testing. And if someone just submitted 100 PRs to Sim Theory, for example, I'd be like, you've just ruined my life because I've got to go through each one, consider in my mind what the impact of them would be. And then what do? Merge the PR or load up that branch, go off, test it. I become a QA agent for the AI and go try it. I'm like, this didn't work. And I've got to do that like every time there's an issue. Like it just seems to me like a huge time sink. Like I just don't really see the advantage. And if you're a non-coder and you're using this as a sort of surrogate for producing code, again, you're like, if anything goes wrong, you're like, I don't understand why this happened or what happened here. Like, I just don't really see where the time saving comes from, especially when right now you can use AI models to write the code and try it yourself in context. Like having it submitted as a PR, I think just really slows you down.
It's interesting too, because I don't know if we just have a different perspective because of how we work and how we code, but I always think that like anytime I use the Cursor agent, I find for like net new things where I've got a clear example, like I'm like, here's an example of a component. Can you scaffold and give me like a version of that component that does this? It's really good and impressive and truly mind-blowing. And you're like, wow, this is going to change the world. But then you start iterating on it and it goes nuts. And then you just end up unwinding it. And then I'm like, I could have just done this quicker. Just keeping the AI in the loop, but not necessarily getting it to do the implementation and just screw up a bunch of files for me. So that's why I still code with like the chat style interface open and just have a structured context conversation going like, hey, we're working on this. Can you explain this? Can you do this? Can you give me code for this? And just use it as like a calculator, but I'm still completing this sort of math quiz and it's the calculator, right?
Yeah. And
to me, I have learned from trying all these different methods, that is what makes me personally, and I'm not suggesting this for everyone, that makes me personally far more productive. I've tried all the other methods for like literally weeks, days, being like, what am I missing here? And I think the truth is I'm missing nothing. I think that the other ways of doing this are fine if they work for you and make you faster. Like that's, good for you. But I think these like GitHub coding agent, as you said, it's like that expression, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. That's so gross, that expression. I don't get that expression, but it's disgusting if you think about it. But it's the same thing. It's like, it's probably the same amount of time because you're still testing, even if it's a simple issue, to make sure it works.
And because it's not your code, it's harder to comprehend what's changed, especially in like a diff file. It's like, okay, it's made all these changes. What's the impact of that?
And then if the AI wrote the original code in the first place, it's like, well, I have no idea.
Well, that's true. Exactly. And I've found that the AI, when you trust it just indiscriminately like that, will introduce subtle failures that will hit you later, where it refers to some library that doesn't exist, or it catches some exception that doesn't exist, or it uses the wrong version of a module, and things that are easily caught if you're copy pasting and then testing on each iteration. But if you're just relying on a PR and you're like, yeah, it looks fine, merge, and then you run into the issue, then you got to revert it. You got to, it's just not my way of working. Maybe some people it is, and I'd be interested in the comments if for other people they do see the merits in it, and maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's one of those bizarre things. I say it to you all the time. Like, are we missing something here? Like, are we, I just don't really. I'm yet to see it being that great. Apart from like whipping up concepts, like that early sort of scaffolding and like cloning things that have been done before. But any sort of net new thing, or like when you get to that later stage iteration, I find it's just better to be cherry picking the context yourself.
Yes, exactly.
So the other major announcement, I'm just picking out what I thought the major announcements were. I think, and this is the overall trend, is where really what we're seeing now is the model context protocol support has totally gone mainstream. In the week, to start it off with the Build conference, we had the announcement of agentic windows. It's not out yet. There's going to be a ton of obviously preview builds before they deploy this. And I would say it's more of an announcement of hey, we're going to do this versus it's a reality yet. But basically, the idea is that you have MCPs native to Windows where you've got app actions on Windows. So this is a way that you can unlock capabilities in your Windows app for the agents to interact with. So it's a bunch of APIs for apps or agents to interact so they can use applications on your machine. And they're also giving it access to an MCP for the actual file manager, for searching files, a whole bunch of tools essentially to interact with a Windows PC. And as people who have built a workspace computer, we were one of the first to kind of do this and think this was a pretty compelling idea. This is great because it gives you hopefully native and secure access to a Windows machine where you're operating it through the way it wants to be operated versus sort of hacking a computer use sort of almost like a viral worm layer on top, where before you're just hacking it to make it work this way, but now it can work this way. Are you excited about this, or do you think this is
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's so good that this is being embraced. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's weaknesses in the protocol that can be developed upon, but I have zero doubt that that will happen really quickly as people discover it. So people know there's two different ways the MCPs can sort of be made available. One is the sort of standard in out way, which is where it's running on the local machine, which is how Claude desktop operates, where the system is basically just purely local. There's no HTTP interface. There's no remote way to control it. You're observing that it's there locally and then feeding it instructions and getting responses. And then there's the SSE layer, which is where you might host it on Cloudflare or something, and then you add it as a URL into OpenAI or Claude or whatever, and that's remote. And what I've found is the majority of them are the original way, the standard in out way. And what we've done to make our stuff work is basically put a layer on top of that we control that emulates as if it's local, but it's actually running so you can access it remotely. So the interesting thing about the Windows layer will be there will need to be some sort of proxy layer to allow it to be operated remotely, but that's easy and that can be done. And so I agree with you that computer use as a concept is brilliant. I think it's totally the future. The application layer itself embracing that makes it so much easier to get to and so much more precise. And I think it'll lead to much wider adoption of this stuff, and meaning that it's much more plug and play. You can really, without even knowing about a specific application, you can add support to that to your AI system, which is really a huge concept. I think the challenge is going to come with the AI system knowing when and where to use different things, how to prioritize, that kind of thing. Because
but it is still the orchestration and the system layer where the greatest opportunity lies. Like, unless the models just get so much more advanced at this, which maybe they will, maybe they won't. But
they can't, because it's the focus. Like, if you present it, like, and I think this is what we anticipate happening. People are going to want them all. They're going to have like 700 MCPs.
Yeah, they're like
each
Pokemon or something. You got to catch them all.
Yeah, you said that to me the other day. Each of which has 70 tools. You can't present 700 or 7,000 tools to a model and go, do this, and expect it to work. Like, how is it's never going to satisfy you, because what does it do? Call 400 different tools just hoping that they're the ones you wanted? And
it's like, sir, I've
turned on your home automation
tools.
system. I've turned on the sprinklers. I've alerted your neighbors. I've generated 5 photos, and I've
I have a challenge. I have a challenge for you. So next week on the show, or maybe the week after, depending on how much time we have, I would like to try hear me out. Test time compute tool calling, but the MCP tool is a prank call machine where it where it has to hit up like every hear me out, every pet groomer in Australia at the same time as part of its test time compute. To see if we can get them to groom a pig. And then,
or to find the dumbest pet groomer in Australia.
But I think, like, surely that would work with parallel if we just get it to call the same tool, right? Would it work?
Oh, it'll work.
It
It'll sit there relentlessly doing it. Yeah.
And waiting for the response.
Okay. I'm up for that. That sounds
I wonder
really
if
good.
it'll time out though. Like, how long will it sit and wait in the
well, I
test
mean,
time?
see, it's a good example, right? So if you use the actual model MCP calling, unclear, I don't know. If you use our system where we're actually handling the tool call chaining, then it'll just keep going until it's done, basically. The main issue you're going to face is running out of context window to have all of the tool call results in there, which is another challenge that needs to be dealt with.
I think though, if we were able to use Gemini with like 1 million connects, surely call transcript. Okay, let's isolate the challenge a little bit more. Every pet groomer in Sydney, the Sydney Basin.
Yeah, who answers the phone? Because a lot of them probably won't answer.
Yeah, and so pet groomers, if you're listening to the show, expect to call.
Be prepared. Teacup is not a dog.
I really, this has to happen. Yeah. I just want to see it just go nuts and just go and call them all at the same time. I think that will be a true feel the age.
The parallel nature of it is brilliant. Like, how much chaos can I cause in the space of like 30 seconds?
Yeah, comment below if you'd like to see chaos on next week's show. Or if you're actually still listening at this point. All right.
I like it.
Moving on. Well, there's not much else to move on to. I mean, you could have talked about all that stuff for 2 weeks.
Has no new AI news come out during the podcast?
No, there's no new models have dropped, sadly. We're all getting addicted to it. I did want to call this out, though, in light of the week that we've had. So you've got Google now, obviously, have awoken. Someone said it's like the kid that got bullied in high school last year. Google's like the kid that got bullied in high school and now has come out and he's like super rich, has a hot wife and like is really confident now. And, you know, like it's like that's the vibe of Google right now. Like they're really like punching back.
Well, I mean, I think we need Google merch. Maybe we need some merch. Maybe you need to make some more pendants with decent chains and we'll all buy them.
Well, I have threatened with the Sundar, or I don't know, the Demis, the deep mind guy. I always get in trouble when I pronounce his name, so I'm not going to do it. All right, so this article I did want to bring up from the information. For Google Challenger complexity, growth comes at a high cost. So in light of Google literally boiling the ocean and then having basically Perplexity built into Google search in the States now, I thought this was kind of interesting to look at. Like, where does that, like, does Perplexity exist going forward, or is it the Alta Vista? Is it the early Alta Vista of the AI generation? Look, the financials are pretty worrying. So they did 59 million in subscription revenue, not bad. 1 million in the API. Ad revenue, $20K. No, $20K. It's like $20,000. Like, why even list it? It's embarrassing. I guess this was leaked. Discounts and refunds, 27 million.
What?
I mean, what the? 27 million.
Why would you combine them in your financials? They're pretty different. A discount and a refund are a very different thing.
Yeah, I mean, these were clearly leaked, but 27 million. So 59 in subscriptions, 27.
And you know who makes the money? The finance providers, right? They take their commission anyway.
Okay, but get this. Like,
gross.
let's dig into that a little bit more. Payment processing, which is, I guess, Stripe, right? $4 million.
That's where the real money is.
We need to get into payment processing.
Yeah.
Web services for R&D,
That's how
including...
Brian Johnson got rich. He was Braintree.
Oh,
That's why
yeah.
he's going to live forever now.
So web services for R&D, including AWS, $48 million. So we had revenue, remember, after we minus discounts and refunds, 27 million. We get to 34 million in revenue. And that joke's going to be on me, by the way, in like 10 years from now, if they're a public company and worth billions. And then below that, I mean, they did less in payroll than discounts and refunds. So they're basically, I think, just like giving zero discounts to students and all these people to get the numbers up for investors to be like, oh, look how many people are using it.
Well, I mean, someone on our This Day in AI Discord this week pointed out, like, a lot of the activities by the major AI companies are not to appeal to regular people at all. They're to appeal to the investors to get the next round of funding, which is how they get their money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that crazy. Like, if there's companies out there who will give you 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion in Anthropic's case, anytime you do something that seems slightly exciting, then that is a legitimate source of getting money in. And then if you can acquire your mate's company and launder some of that money, or you can get the money out in some way as a sort of founder or higher ranking person in the company, then what difference does it make to you if it was from customer revenue or if it was from an investor? It's irrelevant in the long run. Like, if that's your goal, is just to extract some money from the company. So therefore, a lot of these things where we say, oh, well, this doesn't really make sense because why would you give 27 million in refunds? It may make perfect sense in the context of, I'm actually personally cashing out just fine, and I don't really care what those figures say.
I'm just starting a GoFundMe for our lawsuit, defamation lawsuit. We're probably going to need, what, 2 million?
We have done a bit of libel on the episode, I must say, but I am an apologetic person. I'll happily apologize to anyone who feels they've been affronted by this episode. So I will beseech you. I will get down on my knees. I will do whatever is necessary to humbly apologize, because these are just opinions.
So
sincerely held opinions that I will put in writing and sign an affidavit for.
So just some more lulz. They spent as much on models, which is kind of like a bit strange to me. So as much on paid ads, including TV, $8 million, as they did on OpenAI and Anthropic models. So, like, what? Legal services, $5 million. So the lawyers got paid nearly as much as they had to pay for models, which is like you would think the core expense in the business. And then just an other column of losses, like 10 million. Oh, we just lost some money. Don't mind that. Don't mind that 10 milli that we don't know where that one went.
It's so funny that like some small bakery will get done by the tax office for like misrepresenting $200 in like, gift cards they bought. And then this company could just have an accounting column for just general losses. And everyone's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Tech company, whatever.
So why this came out, right, is the San Francisco startup has been able to fuel this growth with a steady supply of venture capital. Perplexity is in talks to raise $500 million at a $14 billion valuation. Its fourth round of funding is just over a year, and ended last year with about $850 million in the bank. So nearly $1 billion in the bank, and they want another 500.
Imagine having $1 billion in the bank and you're like, shit, we're running out of money. What are we going to do?
How are they even spending the money? Like if you've got $1 billion in the bank and they're losing $68 million in a year, it doesn't even seem like that big of a loss at this point. Like, why not lose?
Maybe they're anticipating refunding even more money. They're just holding
Don't you
off.
think the numbers comparable to how much they've raised are mental? Like, so they're like, essentially they're probably going to be, after this round, sitting on a cash pile of what, like $1.3 billion.
But I mean, isn't that the point? They're just trying to get enough money in there that they can take some out, and they don't really care at all about the other metrics.
Yeah, I guess maybe, like, is it secondary sales or something? Like, it doesn't make sense, because, like, if I was them and I was trying to beat Google, why not just go for broke? Like, spend $200 million a year. Like,
also remember that all of this money comes from like people's retirement funds and stuff. Like, this isn't like anyone's money personally. These are all like people who've put their money into, what do they call it in America? 401k funds and stuff like that. Like, so all they're trying to do is just get that money out of those funds and into their pockets. Like, that's what all this stuff is.
Yeah. So without giving a greater commentary on venture capital, but I mean, this is, I guess the interesting thing is, like, can this company, and I don't have anything against them, but can this company really challenge Google in light of Google just putting this capability in search as just like a general tool for free? Like, can this product be so much better that people are willing to just use Perplexity?
I'll give you an answer. No, it can't. Yeah, it's sort of, they're an early hype company who was very smart in their timing, and there's a reason they spent so much money on advertising, because they needed to be known as a player in the market in order to raise these funds.
But I would say they haven't spent enough. Like, if you've got $1 billion in the bank and you're probably going down, let's be honest, I would just go for broke, trying to outcompete Google on like marketing and ads, just constant ads, like, oh, the future of search is Perplexity, just constantly.
They should have sponsored the new Pope, like just become the Pope.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure if you spend enough money, you could do that. That'd be popular with the Catholics.
So anyway, I raise it because the discounts and refunds line, just, I don't know why, I just laughed about it. So it's over.
Well, I told you about the idea my friends and I had for a company once, which was where we would sell coal, like the physical product coal, because everybody
I feel like you've said
coal.
this on the show way too many times. We can't. You're like an old man. You truly are the old man of the show.
Well, anyway, the point of that story is that 90% of our budget was for admin and legal fees, because we're just going to sue everyone who opposes us in any way.
It does seem like money laundering for lawyers and payment processors. This business, that's all it is. Anyway, I don't know how, with all the news we had to talk about, we had to end on this note, but
it's a deep analysis of Perplexity's leaked financials.
It's so funny. It's so funny. All right. So how long until Apple acquire Anthropic or OpenAI at this point? Now they've got Jony, Apple might want him back, so maybe they acquire OpenAI.
Unclear. I mean, I think the point is that the models are converging, and the application layer is what's key, and Apple's the best at the application layer. So I think it's just another case where Apple will bide their time. They'll come out with something that's meaningful and actually helps you in the day-to-day and do just fine. Like, I just don't think they need to buy into it yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone's calling the death of Apple and saying, like, Google's where all the excitement is. But if you look at what they really shipped, it's like, we don't actually have any new devices. They do have the best model. They do have all the data, and they do have sort of they call it like the personal context of each user. But like, that has never meant that things don't fragment. Like, there's a reason that I use some Google products, some independent products, and some Apple products in my life. Like, it's just
Apple's like the Borg, right? They just assimilate other people's cultures and stuff into their own, and then just make it better. Like, they'll do just fine. And I just don't, and they also just don't see these things as a threat yet.
I think in a year or two they'll have like caught up, and finally Siri will be decent. Is my prediction. And I don't really say that as an Apple fanboy. In fact,
Siri will never be good, Mike.
No, it's gonna happen one day. But even so, like, it has made me think for the first time, maybe I should switch to Android just to have the AIification. But then I can't restart my phone, so I'm not sure.
Don't do it. Gemini's awful on phone.
All right. On that note, any final thoughts for the week? We have video generation that one day may lead humans to be absolute sloths and consume content. We have Jony and Sam Altman potentially having a baby. We have.
Yeah, my final thought is that none of the model updates matter. I think what matters is the intelligent integration of the MCP explosion. I think that the right combination of tools combined with the brilliance of these models is where we're going to see stuff that really just blows us away. Like the things like create with code combined with the model usage, good output types, and just all of that stuff coming together is where it's at. And that's going to happen in the application layer, not at the model level. I'm grateful for the models. They'll make a big difference. But I think that if you took away one whole, every provider except one, and you just randomly picked a frontier model level provider,
just not an OpenAI one.
Yeah, well, the innovation's still going to happen. And so for me, that's what I want to see is like, let's embrace this and rush to see what's possible with the combination of these things. I think this is what is going to dominate the conversation over the next few months.
I agree. I think we're at a point now where it's this orchestration, and the next like feel the AGI moment for me is definitely seeing these tools in a sort of async environment working on different things for me throughout the day in the background. And that it's not game changing in the sense where you're doing tasks that like, oh, I'm going to be out of a job. It's just you become more productive, you stay focused in the moment, you're able to do more things at once, and you're able to go more broadly, I think, with the tool use and get more context, get more data, actually take actions for the first time. I just don't think we're at a point yet where it can go off and competently do these things in the background too much. Like the agentic stuff doesn't excite me right now as much. I think it's like agentic light plus human is the next exciting phase.
Like we're moving in that direction. And I think the thing I love about our podcast and our community is that we're all focused on the practical. Like it's fun to get all excited about the announcements, but it's really about what can we do with it. And I think you can't just go from zero to the AI does everything, because it can't do that. We've got to go from zero to how does it help me this week, and what can we do to make the most of the technology. And I think that's what I get excited about, because there's so many things now we do day to day rely on for the AI to do that we've integrated into our lives. And so every time there's a new one, that gets me excited. And so I feel like this MCP world is where that is going to really rapidly expand, because just the vast amount of tools that it can embrace now, and because everyone's embracing it, means that it's going to multiply in terms of those day-to-day benefits that we actually see from the technology.
Anyway, we've got to shut the hell up and just ship onto Sim Theory AI our vision around this, which we've been hard at work on.
That's right.
And again, I think I'd stress here, like Sim Theory for us, one of the main objectives of it is to allow people to try these things. And right now, trying these MCPs is quite difficult, because you need to like create servers and do all this stuff. So a big part of our vision is to make this really simple and accessible for everyone that listens to the show to go in, try this technology, get ahead of it, play around with it early, and work in this async manner. So if you want to support the show and you want to get this first, make sure you get an account, simtheory.ai. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to get this into the wild, and everyone else can call pet groomers in parallel, just like us. We have to do this. I am committed to doing this. I'm just publicly stating it now because the lols will be just too good.
Agreed.
All right. Remember, if you're not subscribed to the show, please do consider subscribing on YouTube or like wherever you get your podcasts. The majority of you, I think, are on Apple. And also leave an average review. We love them. All right. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.